Hello and welcome to another edition of Athletic Director U. I'm Rob Mallory, Director of Athletics at Kentucky Wesleyan College. Thrilled to be joined today by Tim McMurray, Director of Athletics at Texas A&M Commerce University, and Wren Baker, Vice President and Director of Athletics at the University of North Texas. Welcome, gentlemen, and thanks for your time.
Thanks, Rob. Good to be with best in class, Tim McMurray here.
All right, guys, our topic today is fostering a culture of collaboration. And it's great to have the two of you here. Because for those that don't know, you guys came together back in the fall under some unique circumstances to pull off a tremendous collaborative effort that ultimately resulted in my mind, one of the premier Division II football games of this past season, being able to be played to completion. So just kind of using that as the background for our conversation, for those that may not be aware, of what happened. Tim, it was your game. Just kind of walk us through the circumstances, the situation that you found yourself in back in October and how that all came together.
Yeah, we only have about 15 minutes, so we'll try to tell the Cliff Notes version of this. But we're all in this profession, and we throw Hail Mary sometimes, right, at the end of a half or end of a game, and they work about 1% of the time. And I would call what happened a little bit of a Hail Mary because you don't expect to be in this position. But we were playing Midwestern State, battle of at the time 2 top 10 teams in Division II, both with storied histories and a lot of blood in the rivalry, so to speak. And Wichita Falls, monsoon, we got through the first half, lightning delay at halftime, tried to come back out, lightning delay, just rinse repeat for about 3 hours, and finally at about 11 o'clock we sent our team back to Commerce, which is about a 3-hour drive from Wichita Falls, and we started looking for solutions. High schools to try to come back the next day and play. High schools between Commerce and Wichita Falls, anywhere that had synthetic field, none of the high school spaces were available. We learned some logistical challenges there, and so we got to about 12:30 and maybe a little before that, and I called Wren and Jared Mosley, his deputy AD, and just said, guys, this is a Hail Mary, but is there any chance, one, that your field's available, and could we potentially pick the game back up? We'll bring everybody, but operationally, but could we do it? And in the spirit of collaboration, and I think a guy that understands the Division II model and the importance of it, we worked through well into the night, a lot of logistical challenges. I think you guys were on a tarmac coming back from UTEP.
We were.
And so it all came together, and then very short night, drove from Wichita Falls down to Denton, checked into a hotel down there, so we were up and at 6:15 the next morning putting together, after going to bed about 4:45, getting all the logistics together, getting our chain crew, getting our people scheduled, because not everybody has a Sunday afternoon 2 p.m. Division II football game on their calendar, and it was just the model of collaboration. We went back and forth on start time, on what services we needed, all those type of things. And Wren said at the top of the broadcast, our mission is at A&M Commerce is best in class. North Texas exemplified it as just a good collaborative partner.
Wren, you're a former Division II athletic director yourself. How much did that play into your desire and willingness to help in this situation?
Well, I'd like to say that even if I didn't have that experience, that we would have done the right thing and tried to help a sister institution in the state. But I think my time in Division II, and especially at Northwest Missouri State, which has a great Division II football program, I understood the magnitude of the game and the implications that it could have come playoff time. Tim and A&M Commerce is defending national champions, and so it was a really important game for everybody to be able to get in for ratings purposes and the playoffs, and I understood that. And so when Tim called, initially he called, and we were on a private plane with one of our donors flying back from our game, I believe at UTEP if I remember correctly, and I didn't answer right away because I was in a small confined space, and so I knew I could call him about 5 minutes. And when I got off the plane, he had also reached out to Jared Mosley, who's on the plane with me, and so we did everything we could to make it happen, and really didn't feel like we were going out of our way to do it, and tried to send our social media, get some of our people come out and say, hey, here's some free football. So it was a great deal all the way around.
All right, so kind of big picture then, collaboration is, it takes on many forms, in our day-to-day lives, whether it be on our own campus, between institutions such as this, at the regional, national level. Wren, why is collaboration so important within college athletics?
Well, I think the biggest thing is we all go through a lot. College athletics is a very rewarding profession, but they're hard jobs. And by collaborating, working together, you don't have to reinvent the wheel all the time. You can use best practice from everybody. So, Tim brought some staff members to our place this summer, and we spent several hours together. Him asking us questions, us asking him questions, and and I walked away from that a better leader, and hopefully they learn something, even if it's what not to do. I think that's critical. And as I look back and reflect on my career, I was much more prepared for so many things once I was in the chair, because I'd had a lot of conversation and dialogue with colleagues from all different levels. And those experiences and sharing those experiences was very helpful.
Tim, anything to add?
Yeah, I want to touch on that summer. We had talked about it a little bit, but I go back to what Wren said, whether he had any experience in Division II or not, as you and I do, it was just doing the right thing. And we really, really appreciate that. And we joke around a lot, but I really do appreciate what he and his team at UNT did, because it is a fast turnaround that we condensed into a 3-minute story. But there were a lot of moving parts, and we appreciate it. And this summer, the idea that just for he and Jared and Judy Sackfield, my deputy AD, over student athlete success, just for us to get dialogue where there's not cameras on, we're not sitting in a meeting, there's not a deadline. We went to Rudy's Barbecue for lunch. That was a personal highlight for me, but it was just good to exchange ideas, because the decimal is really one of the biggest differences. The decimal in Wren's budget and the decimal in our budgets are maybe in a different spot on the bottom line, but we're still in this because student athletes and their experience matter, and so we're not competing brands. This isn't the Pepsi Challenge, right? This is we're trying to, if we happen to compete against each other, we're obviously competitors, but that practice of collaborative spirit and doing what's best in the interest of the student athlete, it translates from Denton, Texas to Commerce, Texas, to all levels of why we're in this great profession.
So how do we do it? What are the skills, the behaviors that make for an effective collaborator?
I'm big on and I know Wren is too, because we talked about it this summer, you win with people. And I go by that Maya Angelou quote a lot. People don't care how much any of us know till they know we care. And that goes from student athletes to coaches to your executive team to your president's cabinet that we all have to maintain relationships with, hopefully do maintain relationships with effectively. And I think it translates, I have these individual goal meetings, and we just finished them because I do them every January. And it's 15 minutes, and it may be painstaking for a department your size, but at that 15 minutes, we do one personal, one professional development, and 3 professional, your actual job on campus goals. And it gives me a chance to learn. 2 years ago, I learned a staff member was writing a fiction novel in his spare time. I learned another one wanted to do a 71-mile bike ride, and he completed that. So it gives me that chance to connect. And I think when you connect, just informally, you're at a track meet or a softball game, and hey, Lance, how's that bike goal going? And they remember that, because we don't just have the assistant trainer, or an assistant basketball coach or volleyball coach in our office we hope we don't, right, for just a 15-minute one-on-one sit down. And so I think when they see that care piece, it fosters the collaboration that'll come with it, whether it's working on a project, coming up with a best practice, whatever the situation may call for.
Yeah, I go back to when I was first starting college athletics. I worked for Eddie Sutton at Oklahoma State, and one of the things that he said one time is the worst thing a basketball coach can ever start doing is thinking they're really that good of a basketball coach. And his point was it takes good coaches around you, good support, great players, and looking back as I reflect back on my career, humility, I believe, is the number one characteristic that a good leader needs, to understand that you are only successful as the people around you. You're only as knowledgeable as the people around you. And I think once you understand that, collaboration becomes easy. because you realize that there's talents that your staff has in their various fields that are well beyond what you do. And even in my background, which is heavy on external, I try not to mess with those guys too much, even though it's hard, because I realize, I haven't been in the weeds in several years, and practices change, situations change, the way we go about things change. So they're the experts, not me. And once you kind of get to a place where you realize that, I think you become a great collaborator, because you understand that's the only way for you to be successful.
So, what are some things that you do, within your department to foster that spirit of collaboration? Because I think, sometimes collaboration involves suppressing that individual acclaim, and we work in an industry that oftentimes rewards that. So, how do you get that buy-in from your staff?
Well, I think first and foremost by example, and I always say, as the AD, you take all the blame and share all the credit. So if we have something good in any comments that I say, not only publicly, but privately to my boss, I talk about our staff, our student athletes, our coaches, and how they're responsible for that. If we mess something up, and occasionally you do, we had a basketball game a couple of weeks ago where we didn't have enough ticket windows open, had a huge walk-up crowd, it was really cold, we had some significantly long lines. I got some emails after that. I didn't blame the ticket office. I didn't blame, I said that's my responsibility. I messed that up, and I'll tell our staff that when we meet. This is my fault. This is what we should have done, and I think that inspires people to want to do better. And I believe that. When you create that environment, people feel like they can suggest things. And there are things that we have people in like our marketing department suggest that I'm not sure if it's going to work, but I'll let it go, because I want them to feel like they can bring things forward, and that we're going to act on it and give them a chance to be a part of it. And so I think you just create that culture through your actions every day. You don't sit down and write on a note, and walk away from there doing it. It's really over time you let people know that you expect them to speak up. You don't want yes people, and that you want everybody constantly looking for ways to improve processes, ways to improve situations.
Tim, you mentioned the individual meetings. What other things do you do within the department to foster that collaborative spirit?
Yeah, one thing to play off of what Wren just said, and I learned this from one of my mentors and good mutual friend of ours, and probably one of my best friends personally also, Jim Phillips, worked for him at Northern Illinois, the vice president, athletics director at Northwestern. And what I learned from Jim, just his if you really listen to him speak, or you read any of his communication, he's never used the pronouns I and me. He always says we and us, and very intentional about that. And I've tried to really model that. And I'm not always perfect with it, but I think we talked about this summer. When he says it, when we got to North Texas, I say when we got to A&M Commerce, well, we didn't bring a whole horde of, we're not football coaches. We don't bring 8 or 10 people with us right away. You have to develop people, or get the right people in the right seats on the bus, and build it together. So what I really try to do, just like what Wren does, is that I've got subject matter experts in each area. Now, what they don't have a lot of times is, as we all three know at the Division II level, you're hiring a lot of times based on talent. And so that lack of experience, you have to really, really foster that collaborative spirit, because they're so focused in our individual areas on trying to do their own job that we do some intentional collaborative things. I want the compliance person and our business manager working on our endowed scholarship distribution, or I want student athlete success and development working together on outreach to former letter winners of the last 10 years. Those, when you can partner together people that get them out of their comfort zone, we really, really try to encourage that. And what we've also just added in our department is an administrative council that's that next layer down from associate AD. It's our directors within the department. And so admin council meets once a month, and it's basically an extension of our executive team, but we do some professional development in there. We're still evolving this agenda, but that's kind of what's exciting about this, right? It's a new initiative, and we want to really, really try to be innovative with collaboration, not just, you don't just walk in and say, okay, hey, let's have a good collaborative day today. but you better be talking about it intentionally, about how you partner people up, how you have areas together. Our co-advisors to SAC are out of our academic space and our compliance space. So those are areas that may intermingle on a daily basis, but now they have an intentional reason to communicate and collaborate. And I think another thing we do really, really well is our student athlete performance team. So it's any area that touches our kids, sports medicine, strength and conditioning, the academic piece, our counseling center on campus, they meet weekly. And so because that trainer relationship and that strength coach relationship may be very, very different that the student athlete has, so we know how to package, and because you get into mental health, you get into student athlete discipline awareness, just some different things that we try to, on a daily basis, make sure we address.
Okay, gentlemen, I appreciate your time and your insight today. It's been a pleasure chatting with you, and thanks a lot.
Thanks for doing it.
Thanks.
Yeah, thank you.
Thanks.